Welcome to I Communicate on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN. To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Mark Altman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of I Communicate, Finding Your Voice. I'm your host, Mark Altman, and I'm here with my special guest, Andy Malionek, the principal of Immaculate Conception School in Marlboro. Andy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Andy, so I know you're relatively new to the job, and I would love to start out by, being a principal is a tough job. Why would you want to be yelled and screamed at by everybody all the time, Andy? How did you choose that job?
Absolutely. Well, Mark, it is a tough job. It's a tough job. Just like anyone who goes into education, it's for the kids. Okay, so I started off 15 years ago. I was a teacher at the high school level, and I loved it. I loved it because I loved the challenge of getting students to think differently. I loved that aha moment that the students had, and it was their look on their faces that made me really happy. But the reward always came later in life. It was never an immediate gratification. And for a lot of people, immediate gratification is important. They want to see the results of their work, the next day or maybe the next week or maybe even that day that they do it. But teaching's different. Teaching's different because it's you're planting seeds and you're hopeful that you're reaching the kids. And sometimes you don't know whether or not you've reached them. But many, many, many years later, when you have that moment when you're at a mall and you get a tap on your shoulder or you hear someone shout your name and they tell you or they connect with you on Facebook, and they tell you how much you've meant to them, or a book that you had them read in class, or they may remember a certain moment. Those moments, just like any other profession, but specific to education, I feel, because there is no immediate gratification in a lot of instances, those moments really make teaching fantastic.
So, Andy, when you were a teacher, you know how when you're a kid growing up, you'll say to yourself, about your parents, you'll say, well, I'm not going to do that when I become a parent, right? When you were a teacher, what were the things that you said when you became a principal that you would do or not do based on your experience?
That's a great question. So when I was, some of my great influences when I taught was actually my father.
Wow.
And he taught accounting for a night school, Newberry Junior College. It's no longer around. And I was subbing for him. He taught accounting, and I went in there and I just had to give out a quiz to the kids. And I gave out the quiz and I sat at the desk, and when they were done, they handed it up, and as they came up and handed the quiz, they kind of whispered, they said, are you Henry's son? And I said, yes. And they said, oh, he's a great teacher. And I just thought they were saying that because it was the teacher's son sitting in front of them. So a couple weeks later, maybe, or the following month, he was still ill. My father asked me to sub again. So I did the same thing, just gave out a quiz to the kids. Different group of kids. They came out and they would say the same thing. Are you Henry's son? And yeah, sure. Great teacher is what they would say. Long story short, I finally said, I have to see why they say that he's a great teacher. At the time, I was in college. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into maybe sports medicine, and I changed my major 5 different times. Didn't even think of teaching. And I sat in the back of the class, and I watched my father teach accounting. And in my mind, I had this preconceived notion, it's accounting, it's math, it's numbers, it's going to be boring. And as I sat in the class, he was anything but boring. He walked up and down the rows. He was in kids' faces, not to the point of being annoying, but he was making it fun. Engaging.
Right.
And I thought, that looks like fun.
Wow.
And that's what I want to do. So that was what made me want to do in my style of teaching. On the other hand, what I didn't like in some of my teachers was when they didn't make the connections or when they didn't make the material relevant. So sometimes teachers would teach the material, and I want to say, even though the student is younger and has less experience, I think the the student still has some insight that's different from yours, and the student needs to be heard and listened to. And at times I felt like there was an us and them kind of a relationship between teachers and students. And I'm not saying cross the boundary of respect. There obviously needs to be that level of respect. However, I feel that teachers can meet the student on an intellectual level where it's the same playing ground. And I think that builds a relationship. I think teaching's all about creating relationships with your students, getting them to trust you, and helping them to feel that you can take them to a level of growth that they didn't think possible.
Well, Andy, I think you make a great point. I know we have similar philosophies in different areas, but I have to share with you, I was doing a professional development at a school the other day, and I walked in the school, and I saw in the office a sign of the school's values. And the first value I saw at this school was mutual respect. And I thought to myself, what does that mean from a teacher to a student? Because we're always focused on respecting the adults. So I agree with your explanation, but what are your thoughts? How can teachers show respect to students?
Oh, yeah, sure. I think that's a great question. I think that's a wonderful question. And I think first you want to, when I have new teachers come in, when I say new teachers, not new to the school, but just new to the profession, when they come in, you want to say, first of all, you're not here to be their friend. And that is something that I was told many years ago, and it still holds true. You don't want to show them but you can show them a level of respect that you respect their experiences. Everyone experiences the world differently, regardless of 47 or 17. There's still a level of personableness to the world that needs to be respected. They have experiences that I don't and probably will never have. And so they can see things differently. So I think there's a level of respect when they share their feelings or emotions, you can guide them and help them to understand those things. But at the same time, use them to try to help you or the teacher understand his own or her own philosophy. So the level of respect is trying to gain an intellectual relationship where they feel that they're being heard. I think that's most important, is that they want to be felt heard.
So, Andy, one of the things I've thought of about being involved in education, I don't care whether you're a student, a teacher, a principal, whatever, is what's unique to me about the profession is you're involved in so many different, not only different human interactions, but with different age human interactions on a given basis. And I think that how taxing and overwhelming that can be over the course of a day. For you, how do you weather those ups and downs? Because I can imagine on a given day, so one of those interactions isn't going to be the way you want it, and it's not often that you have that kind of challenge. So how do you keep resilient, so to speak?
Perfect. See, that's another great question.
I try, Andy. That's how they pay me the big bucks here.
Great question. So how do you, the resiliency of being a principal, it's hard. It is really hard. One thing that keeps me going every day is to know that I'm not alone. So at that level, in that position, in that office, you can feel you are, in a sense, at the top of the school. And you can feel alone many times. So I've reached out and networked with other principals. That's the first thing that I've felt that gives me the resiliency, is to know that other people have had these same experiences. Reach out to them, talk with them, understand what they've done to get through this. So it was on a professional level, reaching out to other people, saying, "Man, I'm having a hard time with this. What did you do?" And even talking with them, and you feel like, wow, I'm not alone. And you feel that support. Again, that level of support is so necessary for growth, not only in the classroom, but also at every level. And being professionally supported by my peers is fantastic. The second thing is my superior as well, being supported by my superintendent and assistant superintendents. That helps too. So that's from a professional perspective. The resiliency when you're speaking with parents, Mark, there's stories that you hear, right? that are like, I can't believe you think that a parenting goes this way. But then there's other times when it's so humanly draining, emotionally draining, that is very difficult. You hear the human condition in a parent comes in and says, "I need to speak with you," and closes the door, and then tells you a story that you read about, and you can't do anything but feel the connection with them, the humanness. And it's the level of support that you feel in our humanity is what keeps me going.
You're listening to Andy Malionek, principal at Immaculate Conception School in Marlboro, and we'll be back right after the break.